one thing I'm tired of hearing with increasing frequency is the idea that the Pokemon TV show is poorly written and has a horrible main character. Mind you, this is coming from the same group who jack off to Sailor Moon and praise Goku for being a well-rounded and perfect character when you can boil him down to two simple traits: hungry and a bad parent. That thing about Ash, though, is simply not true. If anything, the show has gotten better as time has gone on, due to it continuing to be as loved as it is now. I could just stop there and boot up Overwatch or take a nap or something, but no. I'm gonna sit here and tell you why Pokemon, and by extension this kind of TV show, is a good thing to have. Along with that, I'm going to explain why Ash is one of the best animated show protagonists ever written, also why your thoughts about Dragon Ball are utterly wrong. To start, I'm going to shoot down the idea that the first show was good simply by it being about the first gen, and therefore all the series that came after it is simply garbage by comparison. Putting aside the fact that I'm a visual creature, and the simple reality that the animation of the late 90s makes me want to grind my teeth down to the gums, the show was completely unapologetic for how bad it was. Let's get this bug type beware out of the way, the Poke Rap. If you still think in your mid-20s that this song was good, you're insane. All it is the guy saying the names of Pokemon really fast in sets of 10. Not like it's the most complex thing in the world. Another thing I can't stand about the first gen show is the heart-tugging episodes like Bye Bye Butterfree and Pikachu's Goodbye, because A, it's the first series, so we barely care about Butterfree in episode 20 when we barely see it after it evolves in episode like 4. And B, because Pikachu is his partner, so there's no way in hell you're getting rid of this thing in episode 36. The entire point of these episodes was to fill time, which is a fine thing to do when you want to add gaps between the story, like the gyms. But, you know, not yanking my chain for 20 minutes is a good way to do that, rather than this. So this just wastes the audience time. The episodes are nice on their own, aside from the tugging, but in all honesty, that's just because a rope of Pikachu is just fucking adorable. The common argument that every series after the first one copies its design and simply repeats it ad nauseum, and that makes them less unique, is somehow valid. However, let's be fucking real and realize that each new series of the show is meant to entice the next gen of players for their new set of games. You know, like a smart business would do. Pokemon is not meant for adults. It's not meant to stimulate us the same way it would a 10-year-old. Why fix what isn't broke? Every series has a filmmaking episode, a horror story episode, at least 12 episodes devoted to gym battles, and a whole lot of stuff in between. The companions are similar to Misty, Brock, and Max because the show isn't meant to keep you watching from start to end. It's just meant to serve as a new story for that gen for the time being. Brock and Misty are both gym leaders, and Brock is in almost every series besides Black and White, X and Y, and Sun and Moon. And you know what? I'm glad they changed things up every season now, because unlike Ash, they have a rigid personality that won't change. They're already adults with stable lives to go back to after learning a few things. They don't need to stick around forever. I think Iris is a much more compelling female companion than Misty because she had to grow and change and go through some semblance of an arc to work through. Misty didn't. She had her sisters, she had her being afraid of bugs, which she still is, and overall just had her water type Pokemon. She's still the same person at the start that she is at the end. Nothing changes besides her Pokemon count. Brock is far less interesting than Silent or Clement, both of whom are also gym leaders, but still had more of a personality on their own than Brock and his Pokemon did throughout 3 series of the show, both of which have at least 3 seasons under their belts and are about 45 episodes per season on average. Clement alone has more personality than Brock, but when you factor in his inventions, his Bunnelby, Chespin, the fact he caught a Dedenne for his little sister Bonnie, and his backstory with the Luxio, he has more depth than most other characters combined. The only one who outshines them is the main character, Ash himself. I utterly adore Ash in the later series because of his creativity and ability to take a mundane event in the games into the most looked forward to part of the show, the battles themselves. Battling in anime is boring as hell to me because it rests on the villain being way too powerful and not having the heroes being able to outsmart them rather than just having them blast a bigger laser. Pokemon in general bucks this trend by having the villains either be psychic types, legendary, both, or simply an adult with the capacity to outthink a 10-year-old's straightforward attacks. So this causes Ash to think smarter than anyone else around him, because he's learned how to approach a situation with a modicum of thought, or even just the base understanding of how battles work. Think about each of the gyms he's had to fight. One of the most memorable battles is the Rock Band in Black and White. Why? Because the fucking runner-up, the literal first thing he fights, is a coughing that is simply way too powerful. There's no reason it is, but since Ash is like, oh, I've kicked one of these things' asses dozens of times, I can whoop it no oh, fuck. And you want to know something that I have to commend the series for? He loses. a lot. Up until recently, despite doing the same thing for years, Ash has never once beaten the Pokemon League or even an Elite Four member by more than the skin of his teeth. This is so simple, but it's so important to me. This means that Ash has a goal to meet and will keep trying to meet it until he wins. He's like Charlie Brown on the football. The reason he comes so far in is his willingness to trust his Pokemon and give them the adequate instructions as well as support. Two key examples come from some of the most recent series, Black and White and X and Y. Yes, I have seen more of the show, but these two series really highlight my points a lot, and they're really good in general anyway. Black and White has it so that Ash's Oshawott closes its eyes underwater and it can't aim its Aqua Jet. So he teaches it to do it like a parent would teach a child to do the same thing, which is so goddamn cute that I can't even deal. I mean, come on, that's cute as fuck. X and Y has it so that he uses Pikachu's Iron Tail to climb up the move Rock Tomb, using his innovation to dodge a move that is damn near impossible to miss. And he even repeats this move later on with Draco Meteor. These are just two of the ways Ash is able to take a situation and work with it. It's not like these are impossible, but they're just impressive to me. I mean, take a look at other trainers we see in the show, like Paul. Paul is the biggest dick in the series. He makes me want to strangle that stupid smug smirk off his face. He throws out Pokemon that lose or have lower stats than others of the same species, rather than just catching one and letting it grow and learn its strengths and weaknesses, much like how most people acted once IVs and EVs were introduced. Seriously, that is the most pointless shit ever. If you plucked out one of Ash's companions' Pokemon, I can tell you their personalities and the reason why they are the way they are. Hell, just look at Pikachu. It's the happiest thing in the world, and it's just a nice little mouse all the time. Then it gets moments like this that just make me love life so much.
There's this type, and there's that type, so... now what?
It's mad that Ash is essentially throwing a gym battle that it could easily win. So it just shocks him, chews him out, and gets in that bitch to show the big dingus what's good. The reason I brought this up is to say that if you've ever said Pokemon is shit, yet you praise shows like Dragon Ball, never having seen the former, then you're an ass. I've seen a lot of Dragon Ball, and I get a lot of things out of this show that irritate me to no end. The conflicts are all based on hitting things, both physically and with bigger and bigger laser blasts, and death holds no weight when you have a magical MacGuffin that nullifies it with one wish. Death doesn't happen in Pokemon, but there are still stakes and loss is possible while still bouncing back without having to make a deal with the Demon Sky Dragon. Along with that, I've had more fun watching a 10-year-old and two teenagers going around making friends and catching unique creatures that are all distinct and have different personalities than I ever have watching adults fly, wax philosophically, and throw punches that will inevitably do nothing other than waste my time for 5 episodes of build-up for a bullshit ending that just leads to the next season. Honestly, the first Frieza arc bored me more than anything else because we spend more time on the planet looking for the balls, fighting Vegeta, dealing with Piccolo, and overall wasting my fucking time. This is why DBZ Abridged is better because it's funny. Like really, really funny, and takes what feels like days of nothing and turns it into 3 hours of swearing, snark, and just hilarity while also taking itself seriously. And that's great. Pokemon has duds, it has flaws, but it's much more fun to watch those minor flaws than watch a series of fights that look the same and all of eventually leads to the death of people that person loves to only walk back on that death with Dragon X Machina because removing the main cast of a show doesn't make for the best time, now does it? Dragon Ball also has way too serious of a cast for me, and it makes things boring when I can't tell who is who when they all go Super Saiyan because they all get spiky blonde hair and get this super pissed off look on their face. All the main cast have the same design and same overall concept to them. It's sad when the people who are the most visually interesting are the giant bug man and a little person with 6 dots on his head. The women are even designed the same, and the only reason I can tell any of them apart is the color of their hair. Pokemon does not have this issue. Every single character has a unique, and I can tell you about each of them individually, because that is how distinct the character design is in this series. Besides the obvious in-joke that is Officer Joy and Nurse Jenny, and if I'm being completely honest, if I had to pick between Dragon Ball and seeing Gravity Falls again, which I hate just as much, I'd take Gravity Falls, because at least that show won't waste entire weeks of my time to get through. My name is Chris, and if this cute boy doesn't make you go aww, then you don't know what the fuck good television is.